Hey guys, welcome back to the Nos Esther Malkus channel. Today, like I usually review games, we're doing something a little teeny bit different. As you can see here, I have these flashcards. This is manners. This set is rhymes. Oops, he's upside down. And this set is opposites. Now, if you were ever like me and kind of like marketed to that flashcards are games, well then give this video a thumbs up if you were in my boat. Now, my journey of education started about 14 years ago, and every therapist who was involved in games and every special ed teacher I spoke to who was involved with games, and you name it, I networked with a lot of people, thankfully. And the first thing they told me was that if you're going to game with your child, get flashcards because they are games. And so I have amassed a ton of flashcards. And over the past, I would say 2 years, again, thumbs up if you're like me, worked really, really hard to donate or get rid of my flashcards. Now, in this video, because I was actually tricked into flashcards being games, I am actually going to take you on a journey of what I was told, what my thought process converted to, and why I am, I would say for the most part, against flashcards. So we're going to use the manners one because why not? So when I was first introduced, and I was actually introduced to this company specifically, and I've found other companies, is that look at this. These cards are beautiful. You have the before, the after, well, the before, the after, and your kids are looking at these pictures. And as you can see, I love games with beautiful pictures, and your kids are talking and they're being encouraged to kind of just verbalize, use their vocal skills. And at first it sounded really nice. So I'd sit there with the child and say, "Hey kiddo, what do you see that's wrong with this picture?" And the child would say, "Oh, look, they're talking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and how do you think they improved?" And again, going through the same thing, and I'd be like, "Oh, great, you got it." But here's what was the aha moment. So like I said, I've amassed tons of flashcards. I work in an inclusion school, so I have special ed, gen ed, and I have a special needs sister. So altogether, I'm like, cool, this is working. And guess what? Some children actually transferred it over to the real world, and some kids didn't. So I'm like, something's not right. So I actually did a little switch. We did more flashcards, of course, because they're games, they're fun. And then I'm like, wait, something's not right. And then I started bringing in actual social stories, which was the same idea. But guess what? In a social story, you have the book with the prompt that I want and the children talking back and forth. And so I'm like, wait, in these cards, we have a goal to finish, and that's the actual card. And especially if you're taking session notes, you have to do like 4 or 5 cards a session, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, didn't really feel it. But when you have a book, which again, you have the social situation on the page, it goes much further. Because in a book, you have the before, you have the middle, you have the transformation to the after. It's more of this whole entire sequence of events that I can control how fast or slow we go based on the feedback of the child. Let me give you an example. Google Julia cookbooks. Highly recommended. I'm going to pre-search on Amazon, save down below. But when I have one of her books, I start off with the problem. And then I ask my students, oh my gosh, where's the problem? And just like here, you ask your students, oh my gosh, where's the problem? But then she goes into depth, develops the characters. Here, it's like, well, you make the problem whatever you want. And in most cases, my students end up with a 1 or 2 sentence on the problem. And I'm like, not really feeling it. So again, we have this 1 or 2 sentence, and if you do it in a group, like this. When I start off with the character, the kids tell me observations. Then we actually develop this character. Then again, observations from the group. Then we go into the problem. So we've already established 3 steps before the problem here. Problem, solution. Once we get into the problem, we're actually developing. How do the character feel? How do the other characters feel? How can we resolve this problem? And then because it's a book, you have 5 or 10 pages actually resolving the problem. And it's 5 or 10 conversations with a child. And then, like I said, by the time you finish the book, we've already had multiple conversations. Where else this card? I have 2. Yes, as a teacher, I can bring in the conversations and I can lead it and guide it, but I don't like to do that. I like to be an equal with my students. So if I read the page, I hear my students first and then I make my observations. And so we're equal together. I'm not prompting them. The book prompted them, which in this case, to get, like I said, a book is like 20, 25 pages. In this case, to get to 25 pages, I, as a teacher, am doing 25 prompts, where else beginning and ending. But when I bring in a book, so right off the bat, take something like manners. These cards, they're okay, but they're less enjoyable. They're more like, I'm the teacher. I have this, let's go. Or else if I have a collection of books, I tell my students, you know what? There's a book in that corner. Would you like to choose one? And if I know there's a specific problem that needs to be solved, I may actually fill it with 2, 3, or 5 books addressing that one problem. And so when you go away from flashcards and again, specifically with the manners, and move more towards the book option, we become equals. It's more, even though I need to teach a child, and I as a teacher know I need to teach a child, well, you chose the book, we're having conversation together. So that's the first thing I learned about flashcards. The next thing, which we have, let's say, the opposites and the rhymes, I mean, they're okay. But if you've seen my previous videos, which again, I'm going to link that below, specifically on the Montessori phonics program, when it comes to rhyming, the students would much rather use the manipulatives, take away the letters, engage in the rhymes through a hands-on sensory experience than sitting here and having me present it. If they were to take the word ray and spell it in the Montessori letters, R-A-Y, then they could take away the R, put in the fe, no, not a word. Te, no, not a word. Oh, pay, it is a word. And the children are experimenting on the words they choose. Again, when I use a flashcard, it's me choosing. I am presenting them with the choice, saying, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do today. Now, I can go on and on about how my experience evolved from using flashcards. As you could see, these are actually a small fraction of the flashcards I have. So we have the rhymes I'm sharing with you, the manners, and the opposites. But let me tell you, there are 2 cases, I know, where these actually benefit my students. And unfortunately, after today, these are going to be donated because they did not fit my needs. But I'll tell you the 2 situations. Number 1, when my kids get older, I'm so bored. What do I do? No, I let my students actually choose their curriculum. So when they come over to me with this whole complaint of how bored they are, I can actually present them with, as you can see, these cards are beautiful. They really are beautiful. So I can actually present them with a card and say, okay, use this as a writing prompt. Just start writing until you figure out something you want to do. And I'll tell you what, it does work. It's really cute, but I have other things for writing prompts, not necessarily cards, flashcards. So it could be useful in terms of a writing prompt. Like I said, you give it to your students, and the students, only when they complain, of course. It's not like readily, I mean, it is available, but was. So that's number 1, is to use it as a writing prompt. But then again, you give it to an older student who's writing 2nd or 3rd grader, and they're like, okay, so I need to know my manners. Like, I know my manners. So again, it really didn't bring out that experience I hoped for. And the other reason I would use it, if you're teaching another language, this came really in handy, yes and no. I teach another language to my students, or I hire someone to, I don't myself. And when you only have a short window every day to kind of teach another language, especially for older kids, they really appreciated this. When you show them a beautiful picture and you start talking in that other language and they have to respond in that other language, the stress of the picture or learning that language kind of de-stresses the students, and it is more relaxing and enjoyable. But what I specifically noticed was that when you teach another language, specifically, you're really working on specific skills or categories. I try to do it student-centered. And so these were, in terms of language, a little bit all over the board. So I actually made my own flashcards for them. But like I said, if you're teaching another language, and I would say this is more advanced, then this may have a asset. So what I hope you take away from this, and give this video a thumbs up if you agree, is that flashcards are very deceptive because they're not a workbook. And I try very hard, for the most part, to steer away from as many workbooks as I can. I really do. And so when I decided, which was about 14 years ago, to steer away from workbooks, I was fooled by flashcards and I bought tons. Like literally, I'm embarrassed by how many I bought and how many games I could have had instead. But anyway, I bought tons of flashcards. That was in the past. And slowly but surely, I am trying to get rid of them. So I just can't get rid of things. And thumbs up if you relate. When I buy something, I'm like, oh, but I bought it. How do you donate it? So I'm one of those. And I find it so hard to get rid of things, flashcards included, even though I don't like them. And haven't really used them in at least 5 years. But anyway, so I was fooled, again, lack of knowledge in actual game schooling, and so I have a huge collection of flashcards. So my message for you is, please, 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 if you need the flashcards and you can turn them into a game or writing prompt or something, these are really, not this company, but most flashcards are an inexpensive way to, I guess, start gaming, but please don't be fooled. Flashcards are not games. A flashcard, and I've seen this hundreds of times, is the student over there, the teacher over here, and we're just, okay, we're doing this now, we're doing this now, we're doing this now, we're doing this now. Math flashcards, my students actually create by themselves. They want it, so I don't stop them, but just to keep buying flashcards and having them available, they don't serve that purpose of student-led, interactive, and, you know, students need that. They need to feel part of the education. And I think, in my opinion, flashcards take that away. If you agree with my opinion, well then, a few things. Number one, let me know by giving me a thumbs up here and checking down below to Instagram and heading over, and I'd love a discussion on flashcards because I know I'm an extremist, and to hear your feedback would just mean so much. So again, let's start a discussion on flashcards over on Instagram. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to try to find links to all these. I'm going to try to find links to Julia Cook's books because there are other authors that I do like, but I just happen to have most of her books, and I find this to be a great introduction to just like feelings and things that you would find in flashcards. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like this video and come back next week because you know what? Let's learn and play together. Thank you guys so much. Bye.